Celestine Cinderlaw, and the unseemly education of a nation. Britain in 1930 believed in continuity the way old men believe in stair rails without checking whether the wood is rotting. The empire still existed on paper, which is to say, it already existed only in dreams and invoices. Parliament that night was a cathedral to habit. Clocks ticked, not to measure time, but to defend it. Ink dried on bills that would be obsolete by morning. Men slept in rooms dedicated to wakefulness. The building hummed with the low-frequency arrogance of something convinced it had survived worse. And then, a draft. Not cold, not warm. Intentional. Celestine Cinderlaw stepped into Westminster as though stepping into a story already halfway told and mildly disappointing him. He paused beneath the vault stone. "Oh no," he murmured. "You've frozen yourselves." The echo disapproved. He walked away. 3 guards encountered him within the first corridor. All 3 had the same expression. Confident confusion. The national facial expression of authority confronted by novelty. "You there," said the first. "Halt!" Celestine halted. "Yes?" "You're not authorized here." Celestine leaned in. "Conspiratorial." "Neither is half the legislation in this building, yet here we are." The second guard frowned. "Are you drunk?" "No," Celestine replied. "I'm alert. That's what's unsettling you." The third guard raised his rifle halfway, then hesitated. Celestine looked at it thoughtfully. "Do you know," he said, "that if you fire that, the paperwork alone will outlive you?" Silence. He stepped past them, leaving behind the peculiar sensation that they had just failed an exam. They did not remember sitting. Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald had learned, then, the specific insomnia of leadership. Not fear, not anxiety. Anticipation without clarity. The knowledge that whatever choice he made would be called inevitable in retrospect and foolish in the moment. When Celestine entered, Prime Minister MacDonald did not shout. That later, historians would agree, was the first indication that Britain might yet survive itself. "You are in my office," MacDonald said. "Yes," Celestine replied, looking around. "And you are drowning in paper. How very British." MacDonald stood slowly. "I will not ask twice." Celestine smiled, with genuine delight. "Oh? You asking twice is a national pastime?" MacDonald gestured to the door. Celestine gestured to the world. "Prime Minister," he said, tone suddenly formal. "You govern an island with a philosopher's heart and an accountant's leash." "That is an insult," MacDonald replied. "No," Celestine said. "That is a diagnosis." He sat uninvited, legs crossed, coat falling perfectly into place. It irritated MacDonald more than the trespass. "Your nation," Celestine continued, "is attempting to modernize without asking what it is modernizing into." MacDonald scoffed. "And you know?" "I listen," Celestine said. "Britain has been whispering for decades, and no one bends down." Celestine rose again, began to pace, words clicking into place like clockwork teeth. "Britain is not London," he said. "Not Parliament, not Empire." He tapped the floor. "It is chalk soil, peat bog, beechwood, fungal lattice older than monarchy, and ecology tending to be a state. MacDonald's pen stopped moving. You drain marshes, Ellison continued. You kill birds for fashion. You tear hedgerows for speed, and then you wonder why the land salts. You are proposing environmental policy in the middle of a financial... MacDonald was stopped. I am proposing survival, Ellison cut in. Economies are temporary. Soil is permanent. Ellison produced, seemingly from nowhere, a folded notebook. Native flora, he said, catalogued, protected by law with teeth. No more ornamental nonsense imported because it looks imperial. He listed species with alarming familiarity. Yew, hawthorn, bluebell, lichen species you've paid over without naming. Councils to maintain living corridors, not development without ecological compensation. MacDonald leaned back. You would halt progress? No, Ellison said pleasantly. I would aim it. Ellison's eyes gleamed. Now, buildings. MacDonald sighed. There's quite a look at his face as well. Of course. Britain's architecture, Ellison said, is embarrassed of itself. You either cosplay Rome or worship soot. He sketched in the air, structures inspired by native forms, ribbed stone like tree bark, roof lines echoing cliffs, buildings that belong where they stand. You want Parliament redesigned? MacDonald asked dryly. Ellison tilted his head. No, I want Parliament humbled. The mood shifted. Ellison's voice softened, sharpened simultaneously. Justice, he said, is where Britain lies to itself. MacDonald stiffened. You punish poverty, Ellison went on. You excuse pedigree. You confuse cruelty with order. He leaned forward. Severity must match intent. Theft from hunger is tragedy. Violence from pleasure is pathology. MacDonald's voice was quiet. You wouldn't frighten people. Yes, Ellison agreed. The correct ones. Ellison resumed pacing, cheer returning. Local councils, he said, must be forced into competence. Clean streets, public baths, waste removal that doesn't poison rivers. MacDonald nodded despite himself. Hygiene, Ellison added, is viable. It's a visible form of self-respect. And mental health, Ellison said. Suddenly cold. You sent boys to be shattered and welcomed them back with silence. MacDonald closed his eyes. Fund research. Study trauma. Not priests whispering absolution. Science. A long pause. Yes, MacDonald said. We should have done more. You still can, Ellison replied. That is the curse of leadership. Ellison clapped. The Isles of Wight, he said brightly. I contained ecological rebirth. MacDonald frowned. You want to experiment. I want to learn, Ellison corrected. Closed systems, native species strengthened, soil regeneration, Britain teaching self-restraint. MacDonald stared. You are asking me to gamble? Ellison smiled. No. I am asking you to invest in tomorrow before he invoices you. MacDonald rose. You realise, he said, that Parliament will resist this, mock it, delay it. Ellison nodded. Of course. That's why we start small. Pilot projects, advisory boards, language softened just enough to pass. McDonald's blinked. You thought this through. I always do. Silence stretched. Finally, McDonald spoke. You are dangerous. Yeah, Ellison said calmly. But I'm useful. McDonald exhaled. You will leave now. Ellison bowed slightly, politely. At the door, he paused. Oh, and Prime Minister? Yes. I've already spoken to several members, optimists, urban planners. They're tired of being ignored. McDonald's mouth twitched despite himself. Ellison vanished before dawn. But ideas lingered. A green corridor proposal here. A mental health committee there. A curious ecological plan for the Isles of Wight that survived ridicule by being too thorough to dismiss. Britain did not change quickly, but it hesitated, and that hesitation, just long enough to look at itself, was the beginning of something dangerously close to wisdom. Years later, when asked about the strangest night of his premiership, Ramsay MacDonald would say only, Britain was visited by a man who treated it like a living thing. We did not thank him, but we listened. And somewhere beyond time, Ellison Sindelar adjusted his coat, disappointed, amused, already drafting the next intervention, because Britain, for all its stubborn decay, still had roots worth saving.
Britain in 1942 no longer pretended to be eternal. The windows of Westminster were darkened, not for modesty, but for survival. The Thames moved sluggishly beneath blackout curtains, carrying reflections of a city that had learned, belatedly, that history does not negotiate. Parliament still stood, but now it crouched. That was why Ellison Sindelar was officially granted access. That was also why he ignored it. He arrived at the gates anyway, stepping out of nothing in particular, coat immaculate despite the ash in the air, cane tapping once against the stone, not for balance but punctuation. A guard checked the papers twice, then a third time, then looked up baffled. You're expected, the guard said slowly. Yes, Ellison replied cheerfully, but not like this. He walked past, humming something jaunty and completely inappropriate for wartime London. Winston Churchill did not rise when Ellison entered. He merely exhaled cigar smoke and regarded him like an artillery officer assessing an unexploded shell. You're late, Churchill said. I'm early, Ellison replied. You're just living in the middle. Churchill's eyebrow twitched. You have credentials? Yes. You had permission? Yes. And yet you still chose theatrics. Ellison smiled. War deserves style. Churchill gestured to the chair. Sit. Ellison sat, but sideways, cane resting across his knees, like a conductor's baton. You came offering assistance, Churchill said. You were vague. Ellison leaned forward. Prime Minister, he said lightly, you are fighting the most industrialized barbarism the world has ever produced with courage, factories and prayer. Churchill grunted. And I'm here to offer you something profoundly unfair. Churchill studied him.
You better start making sense. Oh, I will, Ellison said. But you won't like it at first. He tapped his cane once. While your scientists have been busy taming electrons, I've been having a conversation with matter itself. Churchill narrowed with his eyes. I don't have time for metaphors. Pity, Ellison replied. They're doing most of the work. He stood and paced. I have discovered a particle, Ellison said. Not a particle in conventional sense. No mass you can trap. No charge you can isolate. It transforms. Churchill leaned forward, despite himself. It behaves, Ellison continued, like intention given physical permission. It destabilizes categorical boundaries. It refuses to respect taxonomical kingdoms. Silence. You're saying, Churchill said slowly, you've found a way to rewrite biology. No, Ellison corrected. I found something that biology was already whispering about, and just let it finish the sentence. Ellison produced a slim dossier and slid it across the desk. Hybrida reginorum, he said. Kingdom-spliced organisms, not mutations, not chimeras. Synthesis. Churchill flipped pages, expression tightening. Plant-animal constructs, Churchill muttered. Fungal nervous systems, photosynthetic musculature. Yes, Ellison said. Efficient, aren't they? You've created things that don't fit into your textbooks, Ellison finished. Correct. Nature is thrilled. Churchill looked up sharply. Can they fight? Ellison smiled. That Hannibal-adjacent smile. Polite, precise, faintly amused by the question. They don't fight, he said. They endure. They adapt. They deny territory by existing in ways the enemy cannot predict. Churchill closed the dossier. You're offering me monsters. I'm offering you ecosystems with teeth. Churchill stood, pacing now himself. This is war, he said. We'll not be won by abandoning what makes us human. Ellison inclined his head. Agreed, he said. That's why my work does not replace soldiers. It replaces waste. He leaned in. No conscripts, no cannon fodder. Living systems that regenerate, camouflage, and neutralize infrastructure without razing cities. Churchill paused. You've tested this? Ellison tapped the dossier again. Where do you think we've been refining it since 1930? They travelled under escort, under secrecy, under skies that growled with distant engines. The Isle of Wight greeted them not with fences but quiet. Ellison walked with his cane, amused, observant, correcting no one, commenting on everything. Ah, he said, stopping beside a hedgerow. You let the mycelial nets expand. Good. Most governments panic at what they can't see. Churchill stared as a low-growing structure shifted, not moved, but reconfigured, leaf structures folding like lungs. What am I looking at? Churchill asked. Silva custodia, Ellison replied. Defensive woodland, roots respond to vibration, aircraft landings become, well, difficult. They moved on.
A marsh shimmered faintly green. Palace Vigilance, Ellison said. Swamp that remembers footfall. Churchill removed his hat. This isn't a laboratory, he said quietly. No, Ellison agreed. It's a rehearsal. British scientists hovered brilliant, exhausted, sceptical. Ellison greeted them warmly. You're all correct, he said immediately, and still incomplete. One bristled. This violates categories, Ellison said. Yes, categories are conveniences, not laws. Another whispered, almost reverent. The DNA, it doesn't align. Ellison nodded. Because it isn't lineage-based, it's function-based. Churchill watched, carefully. They're terrified, he murmured. They should be, Ellison replied. That means they're learning. They stood overlooking the aisle, dusk bleeding into the sea. Churchill spoke first. You're offering me an age the enemy cannot anticipate. Yes. You're asking me to trust scientists who don't fully understand their own work? Yes. You're asking me to accept things history may judge harshly. Ellison smiled softly. History judges losers harshly, he said. Winners get footnotes. Churchill laughed once. A bark, sharp and genuine. Very well, he said. Your scientists will assist under British command. Ellison tilted his head. No, he said gently, alongside not belief, beneath. A pause. Then Churchill nodded. Seemed to agree. As Ellison prepared to leave, Churchill stopped him. One question, the Prime Minister said. Why help us? Ellison considered. Because, he said, tapping his cane once, the Nazis want a world that calcifies. I prefer worlds that become. He vanishes into the dark, leaving behind a Britain just a little less alone, and a war that had just learned it was no longer the strangest thing happening.